Of course, the big question is, will My Arcade issue handheld Atari tokens? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bog Panda. I am Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And with me,
I
as
am Doc.
always, so,
I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, leave a comment, check out the merch store. But I really think what you need to do is exchange some Atari tokens with Kelly. He's trying to corner the market on these things.
an Atari token baron. So that will be my goal.
You're
Continue
like
to.
Scrooge McDuck with a digital vault that you're diving into.
This is going to probably cause a back injury as I fly back to land on my non-existent digital currency, but that's the way it goes. But what I would spend many Atari tokens on, or at least consider, we'll see by the end of this conversation, is there's some interesting things that My Arcade. Now we've talked about My Arcade recently with some Data East, Data East handheld that I got that had 8 Data East games and then a bunch of shareware games on there as well. And that comes in around 20 to 30 bucks, which I think a lot of these things are more impulse buy kind of deals. But it's a wave of Atari related impulse buys and probably a little bit more than impulse buys if we haven't seen all the prices on these yet. But they came out with a series of them that looked pretty cool. The So what did you think when you kind of saw these, Mike?
So I saw the rumors of there being new Atari physical products. What's interesting about that is Atari just announced that they were stopping production on the VCS. So it didn't make sense that Atari was going to make something else. But that is kind of Atari's MO. So maybe that was happening. So when this got announced, this kind of brought it back to making sense again because Atari does license out the Atari name to anybody who can afford whatever that licensing fee is. So, we've seen the Atari Fight Stick as well as the Atari Raspberry Pis and things like that have come from Micro Center. So we've seen stuff like this. Of course, there's been various Atari plug and plays from At Games. And now My Arcade's getting into it. Kelly is the proud owner of a Data East branded My Arcade. I don't have any of their stuff, but I have looked at. I believe they put out the mini arcade for the Namco one, which I was interested in, and that kind of disappeared. So I didn't get a chance to pick that up.
Yep. And so here we get a mini arcade. So these are the if the At Games Legend is like a 90% recreation of a video cabinet, and Arcade One Up is more like 75 or plus with a riser, or some of their supersized ones are more back to the At Games 90-95% kind of deal. This is, I don't know what, a 5% size of an arcade cabinet.
So for comparison, I don't have one of those. I do have the Neo Geo Mini though. So the Neo Geo Mini is a mini arcade similar to those. The difference though, I don't know if you guys can see that here. You can play it on here. I mean, obviously, it's not great form factor wise to play it on this. It's almost impossible, especially because Neo Geo games are largely fighting and action based games. What's cool about the Neo Geo Mini, though, is this has HDMI out to a TV. It also has ports for regular controllers. So you're playing it with controllers on your TV. This is essentially the actual console itself. And it just has that extra novelty of you could hypothetically play it on this screen if you wanted to.
Yeah, and it's a little unclear because it appears like My Arcade's MO has been RGB, AV cable connectivity to Telly versus HDMI. So I don't know if you picked up on any of it, whether there was a guaranteed HDMI connection on anything we're going to be talking about here. But if it seems in the past, and this is true for the Data East My Arcade thing I've got, it's more the AV cable kind of deal, and it's not HDMI.
So according to everything I've seen, there's no official announcement whether it's HDMI or the AV cables, but they have no products on the market currently that are HDMI.
So this would be a good time to break that trend, guys. My arcade free advice for you. It'd be a good time to introduce that. But this first one, the mini arcade, one of the coolest things for me is the Atari 50 branding on it, which is really cool. And you'll be getting the deep dive from Dr. Mike and I at some point too. We both are proud owners of the 50th anniversary collection, and fair to say, pretty big fans of it. So we'll talk more about that. But it's carrying some of that branding with it, and it is kind of just like what Mike offered there. You got a playable-ish small form factor there. I believe that portion there only plays Atari 2600 games, if my recollections. We're going to talk about a couple other things that get into the 7800.
Yeah.
So 2600 games, which, gosh, it's really hard to find 2600 games on any platform. Just brutal. Never been available before. So rush out. But it is a pretty cool looking thing. So
it is. Yeah.
And because one of the most effective marketing moves at the Atari 50th anniversary celebration software got me is it for me starting to consider about, do I need to own many of the different form factors of Atari throughout the years? Because it's a pretty gigantic gap for me. Matter of fact, realistically, outside of, so I've got Fight Stick after Mike got me into that world and looked pretty cool on that. I've got an OG Telegames 2600 that I've got hooked up and play on the big screen. That's kind of fun. But now I'm kind of in the market for, maybe I need to get a 7800. Maybe I need to get a Lynx. Mike has a Jaguar. So
I do. Yeah.
So I may slide an Atari token or two his way, see if I can unleash that from him. But as a completist, well, now you'd have to get this too. So I've become kind of an Atari guy to try and get a few more of their platforms. But it is the mini console ones they kind of look cool when you walk by them. That'd be kind of cool to get, but I just don't see me revisiting it much. Your thoughts?
Yeah. As far as the mini arcade thing, they look cool. The only one that I've been interested in was the Namco one that they put out, which quickly disappeared. And one of the main reasons for that is one of the games that was included on it is Splatterhouse, the arcade version of it, which is the only way to officially get the arcade ROM. All of the collections and all of the virtual console stuff and reissues of Splatterhouse are the home version of Splatterhouse, not the arcade version. Obviously, you can get the arcade ROMs illegally if that's your sort of thing, but that was the only official home release of the arcade version of Splatterhouse. So I was excited for that. Didn't get a chance to get it. Maybe if it's reissued or if I come across it somewhere, I would pick that up. But like even with the Neo Geo Mini, and I'm a big fan of this system. This is a particularly good mini console. The form factor is a novelty. They know that. They send you, it comes with the controllers so that you can, and the HDMI cable and everything else. You're not really meant to play it this way. You can, but obviously, it's not very functional like that. So I can't imagine the other ones are either.
Yeah. And so the next one my arcade had is a handheld version of some Atari games. I think, this starts to get into the camp of, okay, now you got a slightly better playability factor, but it ain't no Lynx.
Right.
And
once again, only 2,600 games on that.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure that's a big, in a world with the Nintendo Switch, I don't really know, or an Evercade XP. So yeah, it's out there. It's interesting. But and then finally, and this is the one that they seem to be peeling back more and more details on it. It's still hard to tell everything on it, but it's called a console. It appears to be kind of going after some of the later era Atari stuff, some of the kind of multicolor highlights and the steel and the black coloring to it. So it's a very kind of sleek looking machine. There's a lot of like LED action going on with the joysticks and the control panel itself. So it looks like a pretty kind of fancy console. But here we break out of the world of the 2600 and you get to some 1700 games as well as arcade games as well. And boy, you would absolutely think that this thing will have HDMI output. You'd have to, but
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be in my mind, it's a complete failure if it doesn't have HDMI.
yeah,
It's an absolute non-starter without an HDMI.
yeah. You're getting two joysticks that can either be with batteries wireless or corded. And it just, I agree, it'd be a complete failure.
Yeah. I mean, this looks cool. This is the more interesting, like this is almost kind of like what VCS should have been. Because I mean, they really pushed the VCS as, you can stream stuff on it as well as play classic Atari games. Well, I mean, you can stream stuff on anything. So that's not as much of a selling point. I know that there's a lot of Linux people who are getting more into that now, and that's cool, but that's probably not enough of a base to save that platform. Whereas like I could see something like this, if this is priced right, I could see it going well. Um, like Kelly mentioned, it's a more sleek design. It seems to have pulled a lot of the form factor from the 7800, which had that kind of chrome look to it, along with the rainbow color strips and stuff on it. That was all on the 7800. It's redesigned, but it's the same type of look to it, that chrome and rainbow on the black look to it. And it does have 7800, 2600, and arcade games from Atari. So that's great. The problem, again, for me comes in, as Kelly already mentioned. I mean, we objectively have all of these games. Whatever games they're going to be putting on it, we have them. We have them on, Super Console X. We have them officially on the Fight Stick, which has, 200 Atari games or whatever on there from all of their platforms, excluding Jaguar is the only thing that's not represented on there. So whatever games are going to be put on there, we already have them. And we have the 50th anniversary collection on top of that too. The mini arcade really doesn't interest me that much. The handheld looked cool, but I have the Atari collection for my Evercade. So I have all those games on there. In fact, I have more than the 2600 games because there's the 7800 games on there too. So like Ninja Golf, which is one of my favorites. So I mean, I have all of this stuff. So I kind of wish there was something more on there, like maybe Lynx games on this or a Jaguar game, now that we know that that's possible from the 50th anniversary collection. So that's where this is going to fall a little bit short for me. So this is going to come down to price point because I really don't need it. It looks cool.
Yeah, as much as I'm maybe becoming an Atari completionist, I don't know yet. I'm still processing that. While these were all kind of neat, and I mean, there are parts of the console that look really cool. And having a joystick with LED lights on it, ooh, it'd be kind of neat. It doesn't break any new ground for me. I mean, to a degree, it's a little bit of the problem the VCS has, is that if you're only going to use it as a gaming system, no new ground's broken and everything's available except link stuff on different platforms. So I just in the minimal at some point, well, Dr. Mike will eventually run out of room in his arcade for the boxes. I'll run out of room on the island for mini arcades. There's only so many between the Amiga 500, the Sega Genesis, and the Super Console X, the At Games Legends Core. Between all of those, I'm pretty much covered. I'm not getting anything new through these platforms, and it's a pretty cool form factor on the console, but I'm probably not going to bite. But it depends on price point. If it comes in at a pretty attractive price point, I might do an impulse buy on it.
Yeah, this would have to come in at an impulse buy price point. I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that's going to be the problem.
Given how it's looking like it's going to bring a little bit of quality, a little higher quality than some of the other things you get from my arcade. I can't imagine it's going to sit at the typical my arcade. Hey, it's by the pop as you walk out of Walgreens kind of thing. So
right, and that's where I would end up picking it up. If I saw it for an impulse buy price point, I'd be like, all right, I'll get it. But objectively, I have all of any game that's going to be included on there. I already have.
Excellent. We just wanted to kind of share some of our thoughts on some more Atari things. Continue to, in a non-financial advisory sense, talk about Atari tokens and how awesome they are.
Atari tokens, get them.
That's right. Yeah, not that we're saying you should get them, but get them. And don't come whining to us. When the bottom falls out, not our fault. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.